9 minutes after 8 o'clock. One of my favorite times of the week is going to film school. Let's bring in our good friend, Dr. Joe Fortunato. He takes us to film school. And Joe loved this next movie, and boy, it took us by storm, literally. Great animated movie that reached new heights. And Joe, I'll let you take it from there. Good morning, my friend.
Well, good morning, Rick. Good morning, everybody. And yeah, absolutely. This is another kind of a big one here. Certainly a beloved movie, but it's actually a pretty important movie because it actually saved one of the studios. That is Shrek from 2001, celebrating its 25th anniversary, if you can believe it, released in May of 2001. Of course, it stars Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, Cameron Diaz, John Lithgow. This actually won the first Oscar for Best Animated Feature, so that's a little bit of a trivia for this. And it actually beat out Monsters, Inc., the Pixar movie at the time. And just to give you some of the platitudes that it's earned, the AFI has it in the 10 greatest films in the animation genre. It's the only non-Disney or Pixar film on that list. In 2020, the film was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry in the Library of Congress. And even though Ants came out in 1998, that was the first computer animated film produced by DreamWorks. Shrek was the movie that really established the studio, and some say actually saved it when it was still kind of in its early phases. As you said, it was a big, big hit. It earned almost $500 million worldwide, and it equaled the Toy Story 2 and The Lion King, reaching $100 million mark after only 11 days. And even when it hit home video, it was a bestseller. It became the best-selling DVD of all time at the time. So, you know, any kind of credit you can give to this movie for success, it has earned it. And it's pretty impressive that not only was it a big success, but it's so beloved. And like I said, it pretty much saved the DreamWorks studio. A couple of little backstory things. Shrek, the name Shrek, actually means monster in Yiddish. And it's derived from the German word Shrek with a CK, which means terror or fright. So there's a little inside baseball there, if you like. Steven Spielberg was originally going to produce the film in 1991 when he was in charge of Amblin Entertainment. But the film would have been hand-drawn animation, and at the time they were going for the star Bill Murray as Shrek and Steve Martin as Donkey. Now that got scrapped, and it came up, you know, almost a decade later, and it's the film that we know and love today. Actually, originally, Chris Farley was cast as Shrek. He even recorded almost all of the dialogue, and that's floating around there somewhere on the internet. But after his, unfortunate death, the role was given to former SNL performer Mike Myers. And Myers was a little uncomfortable with that because, he was grieving the death of his friend. But he finally decided to do the film, and he took over for Chris Farley in that regard. When it was going to be Chris Farley, the character Fiona was going to be voiced by Janine Garofalo. She was more of a brash and sarcastic character than the Fiona we have now. So it could have gone a lot different had it not been for the untimely death of Chris Farley. Mike Myers completed his dialogue in his own voice, just his Mike Myers regular voice. But then once he got finished, he decided he wanted to give Shrek a Scottish accent, which we all recognize and know as the Shrek voice here. That was going to cost a lot of money, and they didn't really want to do it, but Mike Myers convinced the studio that was the better choice, and Jeffrey Katzenberger and Steven Spielberg, who were head of DreamWorks Animation, agreed after hearing a demo, and that choice cost them an extra $5 million in production to re-record the voice. So there's a number of voice recordings out there. Chris Farley's, the original Mike Myers version, and of course the one that we have in the film.
Well, the casting certainly is interesting with the voices. And you know what I really loved about the movie is it appealed to me, young and old alike, because it had humor that was for the younger audience, but it also had some great adult humor where they would incorporate items from our current world into the comedy of back then. And I thought it really worked for Shrek.
Yeah, very much so. And that was a choice because, originally the conventional wisdom was to gear it towards children, and they wanted to include more and more adult humor in there. And Mike Myers sort of won that battle. And of course, he was right. You're talking about casting Some other interesting might have been casting choices. The late Alan Rickman was initially cast as the voice of Lord Farquaad, but he went on to do Professor Snape in the Harry Potter movies and didn't do this. I already mentioned Janine Garofalo and Chris Farley. Another person who was offered the role of Shrek was Nicolas Cage. Nathan Lane was offered the voice of Donkey at one point. And I like this kind of stunt casting. For the voice of Shrek's parents in the original Chris Farley version, it was Tom Bosley and Marion Ross. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you folks out there, that's Mr. and Mrs. Cunningham, Mr. and Mrs. C from Happy Days. So kind of a little inside adult joke there. Some other people considered for Shrek at one point or another: Owen Wilson, Johnny Depp, Robin Williams, who had done a lot of voice work. So there's a lot of, people that might have gone a different direction. I like this story. The music is very fun in this movie. There's some hit songs or whatever. One of those is "I'm a Believer." That's a big part of the end credits. Well, Neil Diamond, of course, wrote and recorded "I'm a Believer," as well as the Monkees. And Neil Diamond went to see a screening of this film, and in the lobby of the theater, there were these youngsters singing "I'm a Believer." And Neil Diamond, who was then 61 years old, jumped in and sang along with these kids. He goes, "I couldn't resist. I went over, I joined in, and we sang the whole song together." And so Neil Diamond got a kick out of that, singing with some kids who had just seen the movie.
That's wonderful. And I'm a Neil Diamond fan, and I love the ending credits with that song. It's a great movie. It makes you chuckle every time you watch it. And that was a good choice there by Dr. Joe Fortunato. Shrek, today's film school. Joe, you got some stuff happening, don't you?
Yeah, very excited about this event coming up on June 23rd. That's Tuesday, June 23rd. There was a mistake on the website where it said Monday, June 23rd. That's a Tuesday, so my apologies. But it is June 23rd, 5 p.m. We are going to do Fortunato Film School, and we're doing Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I encourage you to go to my website, joefortunato.net, and you can check out the information there. This is sponsored by the Adult Guardianship Services, and that's a wonderful organization. This is a free event, but they do ask that you RSVP, and that phone number is 330-812-3840. Once again, that's 330-812-3840. Or like I said, you can go to my website and see the information there. And this is going to be a wonderful event. We're going to do a Fortunato Film School screening of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where I'll be doing my live commentary, and something that always is enjoyable for folks. And there's even going to be refreshments at this one. So free refreshments, just call that number and RSVP, and we'd like to see everybody out there on June 23rd.
And again, if you folks haven't seen Joe on location doing his film school, to me it's a must, and you should go, because it's fabulous with what Joe brings to the table. I've enjoyed each and every one of them that I have attended, and it's just terrific. So make sure you get out there in a couple of weeks and take that in. My friend, thanks for the time and the visit. Always appreciate you getting up with me on Friday mornings, and we'll do it again next week.
I look forward to it. See you then.
You got it, my friend. Dr. Joe Fortunato with us this morning. Film School here on the Ray Horner Morning Show, 93.5, 1590 WAKR.